Hello, I'm Nancy Hungerford, moderator and a former CNBC anchor, and I'm thrilled to be leading this discussion at what is a pivotal time for AI innovation. And now we're going to explore a little bit more about supporting TP experts in real time through AI. And I have a fascinating panel with me to lead this discussion. I'm pleased to say that Mike Lytle is here, along with Joshua Friedman, who is the CEO of 6 Seconds, the leading nonprofit teaching people how to use emotional intelligence. And also with us, Xiaoming Liu, professor at Michigan State University.
The AI systems are very replicable. They're very scalable. So there's something very attractive to a lot of business leaders to say, well, I just build it once and then it'll just work forever for free. But there's an adaptability and a learning process that happens with people. And I think that if we really want a customer experience, and I think it depends what we're trying to optimize for, right? If we're trying to optimize for trust, if we're trying to optimize for connection, for loyalty, for feeling heard, for feeling supported, that's much more complex than optimizing for, the lowest cost answer. And I would just suggest that as we kind of build these business models, to be really clear, what is it we're trying to achieve? And I think at TP, it's not like we're trying to minimize cost, although that's important. The real goal is to maximize the customer experience in an affordable way. But it's a tricky balance.
And I think one of your points was super relevant. Most organizations think AI is like any other software. I'm going to install it and it's going to do its job. AI implementations require tuning, they require maintenance, they require investment over time because processes change, the market changes, all of these dynamics need to be factored into how the AI interacts with the end customer, with the TP expert. Those things evolve. The second, you talk about trust. There's also an issue of how forgiving people are to another human when they make a mistake. There's a lot more understanding when a human makes a mistake than when a machine makes a mistake. So I think that balance is super important for companies on where do you want that to lie.
A good example of that tolerance, right, to mistakes will be autonomous driving systems, right? We human, run into accident, once a while, but every time, any company autonomous driving car make mistakes, it's on the news, right? Everyone knows about it. So that kind of tolerance, it becomes so much lower. So, to your point, when we trying to push our product into the TP expert hand, I think we should be very, very careful in that kind of process, right? Make sure that whenever we push, we are confident about the technology because we don't want to leave bad impression of the technology to the TP experts. If the trust in the TP expert on the AI model becomes so low, then it will be very hard for future, pushing of this kind of technology.
Right. And that trust is transmitted, right? Like,
Yes.
So if I work for Mike, our relationship shapes the trust that I feel in the relationship and therefore in the company and therefore in the product. And then I'm on the phone with somebody and they feel that.
Yes.
And it's unconscious, automatic, almost instantaneous transmission of this kind of emotional value chain. And I think that if, again, if the AI is kind of lifting us up to be able to do that work better, then that value can be delivered better, but it could easily become a barrier.
And when you talk about trust, we all know it's incredibly difficult to build trust, right? But you can lose it so quickly. So if you go the wrong way and laying people off too quickly, I wonder it makes it that much more difficult. You can't just say, oh, never mind, we're going to get rid of the robots and bring back human customer experts because the trust will already be gone, right? So is this a reason to proceed? Maybe cautiously isn't the right word, but with the balanced AI human approach.
How about intentionally?
Intentionally is a good way to put it.
Yeah, measured approach. And I think people who don't operate in call centers their whole lives, like some of us, think that contact centers have a super high resolution rate. You call in, your problem gets solved, you move on with your life. Most contact center operations run between a 70 to 80% resolution rate. Said differently, that's a 20 to 30% failure rate. in call centers. So if you think about automating those processes without the human layer to soften, to have the conversation, to work through the emotional issues, you're just exposing failure to your customers in mass. And that's not something any organization wants to do.
Disaster. Yeah. We'll talk about the trust. The burden was mostly on the, technical teams of TP, right? Make sure we're pushing slowly. But also, I think for experts, there's also education part. Maybe we need to educate, TP expert to say that we need to have open mind and we need to have critical thinking, right? So we don't always trust the AI model's outcome. We have to look at the result and make the best judgment based upon, EI, right? Emotional intelligence. We make that judgment.
Or just regular intelligence.
Exactly. Common sense, maybe. So that kind of education and for the TP expert will become very, very important as well, because as Michael very well put, the AI model is different compared to traditional software. We don't treat them equally.
Yeah. So when we talk about this balance between AI and the empathy, presumably coming from the human side, who makes the decision of what that right balance is?
Yeah. Ultimately, the brand image, tone, all of that resides with the client. The role that TP plays is more as a consultant in understanding where AI plays a role in that overall brand strategy and how we bring the voice of the brand, the tone, the feel that they want to convey to their customers through our TP experts. And of course, there are ways that AI can support that conversation and help craft the overall brand image within the contact center.
What I go back to is, what are we optimizing for? And as a brand decision maker, what's important for you? And my belief is that brand is essentially a kind of constellation of emotion. People feel certain things. If it's a good brand, it means it generates the feelings that you're trying to generate. And so there's a huge risk of kind of the emotional tarnishing and a huge opportunity of the kind of emotional polishing that happens in these millions of customer interactions. And so I would just pay a lot of attention as you're thinking through this to what is valuable in your brand. And I mean, I've had some, times when I'm a customer and it's really clear to me, they do not care at all how I feel. They do not care at all what my experience is, right? They just want my, $27.
Yeah.
Whereas there are others that clearly are saying, this relationship matters a lot. It's strategic for us. So as you're evaluating as a business decision maker, really making clear kind of what is the impact we need to have, what do we need to optimize for?
Yeah, and there's not a right or wrong. It's in alignment with their business model. You have, like in the fashion industry, you have fast fashion that will emphasize efficiency and throughput, and you have luxury brands that will emphasize brand connection, emotion, the value beyond the actual product, the symbol that their brand represents. So it's alignment with their business model as well.
I imagine it has something to do too with the degree to which there's customer choice involved with that brand, right? If I'm calling a utility company, it doesn't seem as though they're as worried about the affinity for the brand as opposed to a brand that's in competition regularly, I would imagine.
Also the emotional complexity of the interaction, right? So like when you're dealing with healthcare decisions or you're dealing with financial decisions, that's some very emotionally loaded conversation.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, for a lot of us, our cell phone service might be very loaded too, right? I'm not sure it's not loaded.
For different reasons, right? Yeah.
So yeah, from AI model perspective, depending on the preference of different customer, different brand, AI model can easily make adaptation in its outcomes, right? If I know I want to generate a very bold kind of suggestion, I could do that. If I want to be on the conservative side, I can do that as well. So that's a capability inside the AI model itself. We can adapt having a knob, but basically do the tuning according to the needs of the customers.
So I sometimes wonder if it's a misconception that going fully automated is a long-term cost cutter. Like, is it just a short-sighted thing where, okay, we're saving in the near term, but perhaps it's the value you're losing longer term because of hits to brand loyalty or just perhaps not as good of a customer experience? What are you seeing?
I think there's an important relational component. There's like, I think a lot of times when we're trying to create efficiency, we look at a kind of single path and not the context that's around it. So there's a fairly well-known case of a big delivery company whose name I will not share right now, but they said we need to increase the efficiency of our delivery drivers, and they used computer systems and they modeled it and they increased efficiency, and they lost business. And then in analyzing why they lost business, what happened is they realized that these drivers were creating a relational interaction with customers, having time to chat with the customers, having a less efficient route actually improved customer experience and therefore brand loyalty. And so it's a little bit of a paradox, but I think when we're doing these kind of path analyses, trying to understand where is the value created, not just kind of where do we cut cost, but where do we add value?
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think in the contact center domain, I think most people would remember a brand somewhere in their history where they launched an IVR and it felt like you were trapped. You couldn't find a way to an agent. And eventually brands realized they needed to use an IVR to route traffic, not to try and contain. Then we had chatbots, and it felt like you couldn't get through to a human without going through so many attempts with the chatbot. And then companies pulled back. And to your point, it's that balance of how much machine and how much human that provides the experience that I'm trying to create for my end customer. And I think AI will go through that same wave, just like every previous technology.
In the examples that Josh provided, right? I think it's we all know that the human interaction is invaluable, has a lot of value, but it's very hard to quantify it, right? Because you cannot really quantify that. You cannot put that into the equation to impact your business decisions. That's a challenging part.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think, look, that's a great place for us to conclude here, because what I've learned is, yes, we're in the middle of this amazing scientific revolution. The excitement is certainly warranted. The innovations are moving at such a quick pace that intentional approach is definitely the way to go, and the human AI combination working together. So guys, thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate it. Xiaoming, Joshua, and Mike, thank you.
Thank you.